This lecture is over the surgery guidelines and general surgery section, and then our very first surgery body system, integumentary systems. So it's chapter 13 and 14 from your textbook. If you turn to the beginning of chapter 13, you can follow along. The introduction to the surgery section. The surgery section, if you look at your CPT book, is the largest part or the largest section in our CPT manual or code book. The codes start with a 1 and go all the way to 69990. It's divided into subsections, and usually they're defined according to specialty or body system. We'll go through, much like MedTerm, and go through body systems from here on out. Take a moment to review the subsections of the CPT manual so you have an understanding, okay, of the content. Notes and guidelines. These are talking about the green pages at the very beginning of the surgery section. Now, there is not going to be a green page in front of integumentary and a green page or two in front of respiratory. There's not in front of each section, okay, each body system, but of the whole, okay, the whole surgery section at the very beginning has these green pages, and you can find those in your CPT books. In the guidelines, it goes over here in the first page some of the bullet points of what it talks about, and you can review those. They are very good for you to go through and read. At the very bottom of the page, it says guidelines contain information that you do need to know in order to correctly code from the surgery section as a whole. And most of the information is not repeated elsewhere in the section. So like I said, it is good to review those green pages and make sure that you have read, what's contained in there. If you turn your page in the textbook, there's a lot of pictures here, figures, figure 13.1 through 13.6 I'm looking at here, and just a little bit of paragraphs in between. Common throughout the CPT manual are notes. Notes may appear before subsections. Maybe they appear before a subheading and a subcategory. The information in the notes indicates the special instructions unique to particular codes or groups of codes. The notes are extremely important because the information contained in them is not usually available in the guidelines. So the guidelines in those green pages have lots of good information that applies to everything as a whole. Something very specific you will find right there in the code area. So the notes are not in the guidelines, okay? And the guidelines are not in the notes. Always make it a practice to read any notes available before coding. I will tell you the difference, a little bit of a difference between ICD-10 and CPT is that CPT is an older platform. I-10 is brand new, super specific, right? We can code to the highest specificity very easily in I-10. In CPT, it needs a revamp, okay? It really does. Yes, codes change every year, but we don't get very specific in CPT or as specific as ICD-10. So what the difference that coders see in CPT class is that we really get the chance to, I want to say, shop around, okay? That's kind of what I call it. And what that means is, so you start in the index, right, which is in the back, alphabetically, like you would a dictionary, and look up, what you're looking for. Maybe it's excision of a lesion, okay? You find your code or range of codes or possible codes. You go into the main body, okay, the tabular of your CPT book to look at those codes and find which one works best for you and what you're coding, right? Shop around at that point. If you feel like this code smack in the middle of the page is your code, wander up above it. Let your eyes wander down below it. Maybe across to the other side of the page. Make sure that you're in the right area and make sure that that really is the code that you want. That's what I mean by shopping around, okay? Maybe look ahead and look below and make sure that that code in the middle really is the one that you want. Because the index will lead us in the right direction, but it doesn't always lead us right to where we need to go, okay? That's kind of a little thing with CPT. It doesn't always lead us right where we want to go, okay? So make sure you take time to think about that when you're doing your homework too. Unlisted procedures are talked about. All these unlisted procedures we talked about before right at the beginning. They all end in 9-9. You see them at the end of every section, so you might see some of those. If you want to do the exercise 13-1, these are all unlisted procedures. And I just have a note here that says, you know, for all of these, you go to we go to quote-unquote unlisted in your index, okay, at the back of your CPT, and then you can find, okay, those answers. Special reports are talked about. There's a little caution notes, and a lot of these notes are really good this chapter. Unlisted codes are assigned only after thorough research fails to reveal a more specific code. Honestly, I have never used an unlisted code, and I coded for 12 years. Okay? There is always something better that I could find and something more specific that I could find. So you need to be careful. And there's a good paragraph there that talks about under special reports, if you do have to use an unlisted procedure code, what you do. So you should read through that. The example here is really good. It says when the first total disc arthroplasty was performed, the very first one, there was no code to report that service. So a special report would have been submitted. The report contained a detailed description of the procedure, why it was being performed, the extent of that procedure, the length of time that it required, and the equipment necessary. Later then, there was a Category 3 code to describe this procedure, and they put it in there, 0090T. Now that looks very goofy, right? To us in CPT, we are not used to alpha and numeric. Okay, we are all numeric in CPT, okay? Always 5 digits long, always numeric, okay? Those are your CPT rules. So that 0090T looks really funky. It's a Category 3 code. We don't talk a lot about these codes. They are in the back of the CPT book. We take our time with everything else, basically. But Category 3 codes are like temporary codes or new technologies and new procedure type codes. It's kind of like a baby step into the CPT book. You kind of get this baby code, this temporary code. And once it's established and more people are doing it and it's kind of an approved thing, then it kind of graduates, okay, and gets a real CPT code. And it says when your procedure gained approval, 0090T was deleted, and then it gets a real adult-looking Category 1 code, okay? So when you are doing homework, I don't ever expect any Category 3 code as an answer, okay? Bottom line, never, all right? Separate procedures. Separate procedure is a big deal, and I want to make sure that you understand this. If you don't, you have to ask me questions. Some procedure codes will have the words, you'll see them right behind them, separate procedure in quotes. The term separate procedure does not mean that the procedure was the only procedure that was performed. Rather, it's an indication of how the code can be assigned. Locate code 1900 in your CPT manual. Okay? If you look at 1900 in your CPT, 19100, no, wait a minute, what is it? 19100, sorry. 19100, here it is. It says, biopsy of breast, percutaneous, needle core, not using imaging guidance, and then in parentheses it says separate procedure. Okay? The breast biopsy code 19100 has the words separate procedure in parentheses, okay, after the full code description. Procedures followed by the words separate procedure in parentheses are considered a minor procedure. They're reported only when they are the only service performed or when they are performed with another major procedure, but it's a very different site, or very unrelated. When the minor procedure is performed in conjunction with a related major procedure, it's considered incidental and it's bundled in. These examples, okay, the first example, if you read through that, it's a very separate time, okay? The second example, if you read through that, it's a very different area, okay? Read those examples and make sure that you understand them. If you see separate procedure, you have to stop. It's kind of a light bulb. You say, okay, wait a minute. There's something different I need to do here. I need to think about this. Do I really want to code this procedure? Is it the only thing done? Yes, I do want to code it. Okay, if it's the only thing done. Is it done with something else? Do I have another procedure that's happening that day as well? If I do, okay, if I do have another procedure that I'm coding, and this is like a secondary procedure, is it something completely different, a different area, a different time? Like it said, is it something completely separate? Then yes, I do want to bill it. Is it something that would be included or incidental, integral to the main procedure? Then I probably don't. Okay, which some coders are like, my gosh, you know, I took time to find this code. It took me forever. And once I finally found it, I realized it's a separate procedure and I didn't even have to code it. Okay. And some of that just happens and you get used to doing some of that. So make sure you really understand separate procedure and you really pay attention when you see separate procedure. And that just means you need to slow down and take time so that it does pop out when you see it. Surgical packages are talked about, and you can read through those. A lot of insurance companies kind of have varying definitions of what a surgical package is. It just means a lot of times that this stuff is all included. We don't charge separately for some of the supplies. We don't charge separately when we put in stitches to take them out. Okay? It's included with putting them in. If you put them in, you're going to take them out. If a doctor that is different though, if one doctor puts them in and a different doctor takes them out, you can charge for that because remember in CPT we are capturing the physician's work, okay? All the physician's work and expertise and their education and schooling, that is what we are capturing here in CPT with these procedures. So read through the surgical package. That's very good information. On page 350, all of this information is really, really good. I have a lot of highlighting on my page in the book here. When we talk a little bit about the charge master will tell us if we are global. What means global is we're in the post-op period. Every CPT procedure has a global or a post-op period listed, and sometimes it's 0 days. And sometimes it's 10 days, and it means if you did a procedure and it has a 10-day global period, anything for 10 days that you need to do regarding that procedure is free. It's included, okay? Meaning I have to go get dressing changes. Those are included. You don't get charged separately for those. I have to go get it repacked. That's included. You don't get charged separate for that. It's regarding that main procedure that you had done. That's what global is. And when we talk about post-op, there is a code that we use. We have to prove that the patient was here. Okay? If the patient was scheduled today for a dressing change, there needs to be a note. They are scheduled a time. There will be a note in the chart. And we need to put something on their financial ledger. We need to code something out. Okay? If you look at page 351, you see in the little paragraph in the middle of the page there, 99024. Really take a second to look at that code. That is a post-op follow-up visit. It's included in the global service. If I bill that out, it's going to create $0. It doesn't go anywhere. It's like a placeholder. Yes, we saw the patient that day, but we did not bill them anything because they were within their 10-day global period and they had their stitches removed or they had their, wound repacked or something like that. So really read through that example at the bottom of page 351. Though both of those pages are super, super important for you to read through. Okay? And that's the end of the general chapter 13. I'll make another video here for chapter 14.